We thank the organizers for calling me for this session and exploring funding landscape in the emerging Indian healthcare industry, current trends and future projections. I think the whole thing today is a lot on efficiency and cost. One of the interviews I was seeing yesterday was very interesting. You have this whole debate in the US about how healthcare is so expensive. So then basically there are various reasons for it. To the reason that the US now spends about 15% of its GDP on healthcare, and they're not really finding it sustainable. And I think one of the biggest pitfalls for the Obama administration is getting this healthcare reform legislation. But this doctor takes a very different perspective. He says it's got nothing to do with Obama. You know what it's got to do with? It's got to do with the Hippocratic oath that the doctors take, because it says, I'll do my best for my patient, and as a result, probably prescribe every test in the book, do every procedure. So a very interesting and different perspective. He says American healthcare is based because we got our bioethics wrong. So that's a way of looking at it. I'll briefly go through some of the points, and this I think raises more questions than answers about how the Indian landscape is, how's it emerging, what are some of the trends we can see, and we have a very august panel, and I think then they'll take up each of these areas and see what's the solution. I think India is very, very unique in a way. There is no model which we can replicate. There are learnings from every model, but taking our healthcare forward, I think we need to devise our own model. I'll take the parallel with the telecom industry. India has a very unique telecom industry, and it was all created here. It's very different to any other industry. So I think that low-cost, high-penetration model somewhere in healthcare also needs to come about. So just an overview, and this is typically, if you look at India, we have these big growth waves. So we suddenly grow in waves. We had a green revolution, we had a white revolution, which is the milk thing. The information technology, which really put India on the stage, telecommunication, and then retail. So is healthcare the next revolution? In a lot of ways, if you look at historical parallels, after the retail revolution in the US, this happened in the 70s, healthcare was the next boom sector. So probably, history would repeat itself. India has very different healthcare dynamics. If you look at the corporate hospitals, they've just developed in the 25 years. So historically, they were more government and charitable institutions. So we don't have a very long legacy of actually corporatizing healthcare. The other thing which is very stark is that we are one of the most privatized healthcare systems in the world. 80% of the delivery by private providers. Also, what all the providers are fragmented and unregulated. Only 6% of the deliveries in an organized format. In an organized format, we need hospitals which are more than 50 beds. This is a very uncanny resemblance to where the retail sector was before the boom started. And the last part is, in India, the accessibility to healthcare is always limited by affordability. And unfortunately, less than 10% have any form of healthcare coverage. But there are very strong drivers for Indian healthcare. I think the biggest is the growing population. Incomes which are rising and which are making people move away from the public to the private sector. Growing urbanization. That's a strong driver because to deliver healthcare anywhere in the world, you need a critical mass. The other thing I think is the increasing burden of chronic disease. And as all of you've heard, we as Indians are much more predisposed to having diabetes, more predisposed to having cardiac disease. And the WHO actually predicts that, India would be like a diabetic capital of the world. What really happens is most of our healthcare, even today, is focused on acute episodes of care and not really on chronic episodes. So you had malaria, you had dengue, you went to the healthcare provider, you got treated and went back. But that's a different paradigm. Now you have diabetes, you need an intervention at every stage. So we've still not made that shift. In a way, it's ironic because we've not got rid of the acute diseases, but we've not learned how to actually deal with the chronic ones. The increasing accessibility of health insurance. I think health insurance is again going to be one of the drivers. And finally, the point about medical value travel. Can India really be a destination? So this is the market for the healthcare, delivery, pharmaceuticals, medical equipment. A very small market, but still growing very fast. there's a huge demand-supply mismatch, and this is the first thing which strikes most people as, if you look at the global average of beds 2.6, India's at 0.7. I've just put the BRIC nations, I've not even compared with other nations. We're very, very far behind. I think more important than even the beds, because medical technology and healthcare is moving ahead, beds would not be relevant in the next 20 years. You probably have only beds if you require acute care. But what's more disconcerting is basically that the physicians, nurses and paramedical staffs are very, very low. So there was an estimate that even 600 medical colleges and 1,500 nursing institutes, if they're set up today, it will take about 15 years for India to come to the global average. Then I think a lot of the healthcare, and we recently done a study for one of the large funding organizations, international funding organizations, all over the country, and what really has emerged, and this is well known, is you have excellent healthcare in the metro cities. You could probably compare it with anywhere in the world. But then if you moved 100 kilometers out of Hyderabad, everything breaks down. So you have these islands of excellence. So I think over a period of time, I think the greatest growth is going to happen. We estimate there will be 65 megacities. Those are over 1 million population. So a lot of growth of healthcare and a lot of investments going to happen outside the metros. This is what the current demand is. We've just done a projection, supposing you move the bed population ratio from 0.7 to 1.7. Then what happens? How much is the investment needed? Mammoth sums as such. Then the perspective, which I said, we still spend very low percentage of our GDP, close to about 5% of our GDP. In the US, I think it's gone to the other extreme where they spend 16%, and they estimate by the time the first term of the Obama administration is over, provided it gets, they'll probably be there at 20%, which is really not sustainable over a period of time. But I think we are at the other extreme where our public spending is so very low. We've actually ranked 171 out of 175 in public health spending. So we're probably right at the bottom of the thing. So the public health spending is something which you need to do, because they're often not business models at the primary level. There are very few business models for immunization. There are very few business models you can create about creating awareness for AIDS or creating awareness for other diseases. So the government also needs, it's not that healthcare, they can actually absolve themselves and say the private sector look after everything. So it has to be a combination of both private and public funding, and the huge investments. Where are the opportunities going ahead? I think the opportunities on the delivery side are all there, right from super specialty hospitals to community hospitals, and I think this concept's now catching up in India. One of the things was most hospitals were like multi-speciality hospitals. They wanted to offer tertiary care. They found that the financial dynamics of this doesn't work very well. If you take a typical tier 2 city, what 80% of your problems are in an upgraded secondary care unit. So you actually mitigate your risk both in terms of the investment as well as in terms of the patient if you build a hospital around the community. And this is something which people have woken up today. Diagnostic centers. I think the other growth area would be daycare surgery centers. The way technology is moving, you really don't need to stay in a hospital. The lifestyle reconstructive cosmetic healthcare. And something which is missing in India, the academic medical centers, which combine the three combination of healthcare delivery, education and research. Also a lot on the enabling side, I think IT is one of the biggest areas where you look at investment. Medical equipment, the greatest bane in India is the medical equipment, most of it is still imported. And it's not very appropriate to an Indian surrounding. So how much this indigenization can be done? I was recently speaking to the head of GE in India, and they're very, very keen that they make equipment which is appropriate for India at India prices. Because then they're saying it's not the Indian market we're looking at. Then we're looking at the global market, taking this product from here. I think a very close analogy to what the IT sector did. Consumables, training, education, medical waste management, hospital architecture, facilities. I think the whole gamut can do with investment. Today, where does most of the investment come in? At least for hospital, I think it's just one area, long-term debt. Most hospitals take long-term debt, and that's the this analysis shows as many as 53% actually rely on bank debt. And the greatest problem with hospitals is why the big corporate chains are able to get it. The smaller hospitals really have to struggle. As a result, the growth is really put on hold because from internal accruals, there's a limit to what you can fund. Then again, just to show how the private equity investments have come in, hospitals and of course the pharma sector has been one of the biggest areas. And healthcare companies seem to prefer PE funding over raising capital or IPO or debt. If you look at India, there are very few listed companies on the healthcare delivery space. Again, the deal sizing around hospitals, pharmaceuticals, biotech, you see this going up and down. I think that had to, where you saw really a drop both in 2007 and 2008. I'm sure this graph is going to go up in 2009. So where are the investments happening today? It's very nascent industry. If you compare it to anywhere, the healthcare industry is still very nascent. It's still not got it. So if you look at the venture capital, a lot's happening, but again, the venture capitalists are still, we speak to a lot of them, they're not really finding, models which they would like to fund. The growth equity, and I think many of the panel members would talk about that type. And the traditional buyouts, that's more in a mature market. And I think we recently had an example of that, but if actually there were traditional buyouts, there are very few opportunities in India. There are very few networks of hospitals which could actually be sold. The foreign direct investment is another thing. This is coming to various sectors. However, in healthcare, we've not really been able to tap it. I was there at a conference in Washington a month ago, and everybody said, we are really bullish on healthcare, we are really bullish on India. How do we put it together? So somewhere down the line, I think it's not really been packaged properly, the product, because the other sectors have made it very clear how do we invest and what the returns are. We're still very opaque on that. So are we missing out something, saying, okay, it's a great opportunity, we have everything, but why are we not getting the investment? The same thing, the external commercial borrowings have also been liberalized, but very few hospitals have actually taken any advantage from this. So how can this be another thing which could stimulate growth of healthcare? So I think we have a real problem here, and I call it both sides of the coin. So this huge opportunity, high need gap, the limited presence of network hospitals, so you can build up network hospitals, a very skewed bed population ratio, the most privatized healthcare delivery, high spend in the private sector. So unlike other countries, it's not that you invest and tomorrow you see the government put up a hospital across the road. It's not going to happen. Because the way the government's working now, it's moving out from the delivery of care into actually financing the care. So if you look at all the schemes of health insurance, they're looking at how they can fund healthcare for those below the poverty line. But they're not really looking at the delivery. So you have that. It's a fairly recession-proof sector. There are very many viable formats which have worked in India. There's a huge opportunity to mix, both brownfield and greenfield. You have good operating margin, good return as compared to other industries. So that's the opportunity. It looks a great place to invest. But then when you really go down, I think what hits you is the real estate cost, which really makes a lot of projects unviable. Recently, we're giving some sort of informal advice to one of the state governments, and this is a parcel of land which is in the national capital region. And the way they priced it, no hospital would be viable, but later on we found out if you price that land, that no industry in the world would be viable. But that's how the government's priced its own land, because they feel that this they can get from that. And truthfully, that land's still available for sale if someone's interested. The other thing is replicability. Often in India, what you have is you have this excellent hospital. You say it works very well. You really invest in it, but it's not really able to replicate or scale it up. So the greatest problem with most of the investments is, and this includes large corporate chains, so it's not limited to the lower price. They've not been able to replicate a hospital they built in Hyderabad, in another city, that replicability. In tier 2 cities, this gets even more adverse. Second is the management bandwidth. Again, this has to do with the first point. There are very few people who are really trained to replicate that and take that management across. Then the clinical, nursing, paramedical, besides the shortage, the skill sets are missing. And somewhere I think also there's been, we Indians are supposed to be so entrepreneurial, but I feel in healthcare somewhere that entrepreneurship has got lost. What I'm going to next show you is actually how models work very well. This is an example of a hospital chain I've taken from South Africa. It's called Netcare. The thing was, his philosophy of the promoter who started it, Dr. Chevelle, was to network the care with care. So that's how he put it together. So this was founded by Jack Chevelle in South Africa. It was listed in the South Africa Exchange since 1996. It manages 120 private hospitals with more than 11,700 beds, so which makes it the third largest hospital group in the world. And all this has happened in a period of about 10 years. So he started with a very small amount, less than $4,000 bank loan. Started off with 6 hospitals, 4 from receivership, brought them in together. He grew both organically, but also he realized that you need to do acquisition, so he acquired 4 large groups, various independent and other investments. And what was the strategy? Basically an integrated healthcare strategy, something which I'll explain later, which doesn't exist in around the whole core hospital business. So you say your core hospital business is there, and that's looking at the patient care, but you don't miss out in the value chain around the place. It became the most integrated healthcare company globally, with having 25 divisions. So it started right from primary care, retail pharmacy, diagnostics, emergency medical services, ancillary healthcare business. So they looked at dialysis centers, travel clinics, radiotherapy, oncology. And they also extended into public-private partnerships. What was the philosophy? I think one of the philosophies was of partnership versus ownership. So wherever he came into an investment, rather than just take over that hospital, he got all the stakeholders involved. The doctor who was running the hospital was also made up. He also said the doctors were key to the success. Looked how he looked at reputable people and built this whole brand around them. These were very good people who were doing excellent work, but when they all came together, they became a formidable force to reckon with. So best operating practices in one hospital could actually be taken to that. What I met him recently, and he said a fanatical attention to detail. Differentiate through flexibility and creativity. So they're always doing something new. So if you looked at 5 hospitals in Johannesburg, the Netcare hospital was always in the news doing something new. So this is the integrated healthcare strategy. With insurance sitting on top, then you have the hospitals, acquired, organic, the academic part of it, the education part on a separate side with the PPP, multi-care centers, pharmacology, pathology, imaging, the whole works. So practically nothing's left out, the whole network. So a patient for anything, even alternative medicine, does not need to go outside the network. So this is what their financial and operational profile looks like. They have a market capitalization of more than 3.5 billion and over 1.1 million patient admissions a year. This is how the revenue zoomed for about 65 million rand to about 11,000 million rand over a period of time. So that's an amazing learning story, and I'm sure that it can be done. In the Indian context, I think there are entrepreneurs, but it's just that maybe it's not come together again. Some of the key issues in healthcare, again coming back, the case mix. One of the things is healthcare is very complex, and people, really find it difficult to find out where does the revenue from a hospital or where does the profitability come in. So these are some of the things. What is the case mix you have? If you do a particular type of investment, you must have a particular type of case mix. If you've done a tertiary care hospital investment, you can't run with a secondary care hospital case mix. The bed occupancy, the average length of stay, which is very important, the ability to really churn out more patients in less time. Inpatient and outpatient, what are the ratio? What are your ancillary revenues? How do you keep costs, doctor costs, variable costs, staff training? And finally, how does the revenue share occur in hospitals? So this is a typical hospital life cycle if you look at it. I would say in the middle of the second year, if you're really successful, you sort of have a cash break even. A lot depends on how well you ramp up operations. Most hospitals build themselves well, but instead of ramping up operations, this time actually lags from 3 to 5 years, and then makes the whole project unviable. For the biggest problem in a hospital then comes, your technology gets redundant at the end of 5 years, but you've still not broken even. So then maybe at the 5th year you get net profits, and then later on we're looking more at the peak margins. So how do you accelerate growth if you have a hospital actually? One is, I think, as I explained, expand the value chain. A lot of hospitals in India feel like what they're doing, they're very good, but they don't expand the value chain. So look at every patient and see, if he's going to spend 100 rupees, how much is he going to spend in your network? And how much of that? And that's been exactly the example of Netcare I mentioned before. Then go in and, you can't really work on one facility, acquisition of facilities, increase capacity utilization, reduce the length of stay. So then obviously this improves your return on equity. So just to conclude, what are the issues again? I think I've just summarized them. The real estate, you don't have quality as assets, the professional management. The other thing is there's no data for comparables. So if you go to actually run a hospital in a tier 2 city, there is very little data of what happened to another hospital you have. Quality and accreditation. We spoke about affordability, we spoke about accessibility. Going ahead, I think accountability is going to be the third. The Indian consumer is already very aware of his rights, and today you find most corporate hospitals are having legal suits. So look at accountability, look at clinical outcomes and the regulatory compliances. So going ahead, it's a $40 billion industry. It's really going to poise to grow fourfold. Majority of the investment would be through private equity entities, and which private equity will play a major role, and we listen to what most of my panelists have to say. There's a huge opportunity, but many constraints. 3 A's: accessibility, affordability, and accountability. As I see it, a phenomenal growth in India, especially in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So healthcare, I think, given the right sort of conditions and the environment, in India is probably going to give us, boundless opportunities today in a boundless world. Right. Thank you.